Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin Yala. And in today's episode, the main news is where will Bitcoin be in January, February, or sometime in 2025. It's estimated that Bitcoin will be and reach over $800,000. Okay, that's incredible. Okay, how are we going to get there? Well, through the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Okay, Donald Trump and his staff are talking about strategic Bitcoin reserve for Bitcoin, which will basically means that the U.S. will be procuring or purchasing over 1 million Bitcoin. Okay, that's a lot of Bitcoin. So stay tuned for this article. I'm going to show it to you right here and we can go over it. But first, I want to show you where Bitcoin is. We are right there, about $107,000, which is pretty impressive considering our last video we did a few weeks ago, just a few weeks ago, Bitcoin hit $100,000. Now it's at $107,000. So it's on its way up. So, but before I get to the article on the U.S. using Bitcoin as strategic U.S. reserve, I want to show you quickly what is fueling all of this run up or this acceleration to $107,000. So if you look here, I'm going to pull up for you a list of U.S. companies that are purchasing Bitcoin. Okay, so you can see here on the list, this is quite a few companies and the amount of Bitcoin that they're purchasing, either buying it outright or mining it and acquiring it that way. So, but as you can see, it's a lot of companies on this list. So if you look closely, you may recognize some of these companies and some you may not, but it's all very, very impressive. Now, let's have a look here at the nation states that are buying Bitcoin, because Bitcoin isn't any longer being just purchased by individuals like you, me, or other people. It's being purchased by these companies that you see here and these nation states. Okay, there's the list. So as you can see here, these nation states, they're not just buying a couple hundred Bitcoin. Okay, they're buying a lot of Bitcoin. Okay, and this is just what's being reported. Okay, so as you can see here now, with Donald Trump announcing that he's going to do a strategic Bitcoin reserve, we're in somewhat of an arms race, okay? Back when I was growing up, it was between the US and Russia. We had an arms race. Now, it's a Bitcoin race, okay? So the countries are rushing to procure their Bitcoin and their piece of the Bitcoin pie, okay? It's coming out almost daily now, the countries announcing that their parliament, their government is meeting to discuss how are they going to proceed with a Bitcoin strategic reserve for their countries. Okay, so there's many countries. It's happening every day. Okay, so I wanted to show you that list of the companies buying Bitcoin and nation states or countries buying Bitcoin. Now I want to show you the news article that came out today that's in the news, which is talking about the strategic Bitcoin reserve and how Bitcoin can go to $800,000, okay? So you can see here, this article here, Trump may use Bitcoin as U.S. reserve asset on day one. How high can Bitcoin price go, right? So I'm not gonna read the whole article here, but as you can see here, a 200,000 Bitcoin buy order is coming in July of 2025. Okay, it's very impressive. Okay, now I'm going to put a link in the description below for you of the article so you can read it at your leisure. But basically, they're saying Bitcoin's price may hit 800,000 by the end of 2025. And let me explain a couple reasons why this may happen. This may happen because not only the companies, as you saw, are buying Bitcoin, nation states are now buying Bitcoin, but also there's a supply squeeze. Okay, what that means is Bitcoin's capped at 21 million. Okay, many of you have heard me say this before, but it's very, very important. And for those of you who are new to the channel, it's good for you to hear it as well. So Bitcoin is a finite supply. Okay, there can only be 21 million Bitcoin. Of the 21 million, about 19 million are currently mined and in circulation. Of the 19 million, about 5 to 6 million have been lost, and they're lost forever due to people dying and not knowing their passcodes or handing them down properly, but they're lost, okay? So you may have even seen some articles on the news about that. Well, now with the way nation states, companies, and all of us are buying Bitcoin, there's only believed to be about 1 million or less Bitcoin available to be purchased on the exchanges. So you do the math. That's why they're coming up with these numbers, 800,000 Bitcoin in 2025, right? Because it's a finite supply. Companies are buying Bitcoin all the time. Banks are now buying Bitcoin, okay? We have nation states buying Bitcoin. We have individuals buying Bitcoin. And now you have governments talking about buying large portions of Bitcoin as their strategic reserves. So where do you fall in, right? So I'm going to show you this clip by Michael Saylor. He's our best spokesman for Bitcoin. He's going to talk about the strategic U.S. Bitcoin reserve, whether or not he thinks it can happen, and whether he thinks Donald Trump is going to follow through. So have a listen to this, and I look forward to seeing y'all on the next one. Here we go.
Joining us is MicroStrategy co-founder and executive chairman Michael Saylor. Well, you're the guest of the moment. So is there a limit to how much Bitcoin you're going to acquire?
No, I've said we'll just keep buying the top forever. Every day is a good day to buy Bitcoin. We look at it as cyber Manhattan. I would have bought Manhattan 100 years ago, 200 years ago, every year for the past 300 years. You pay a little bit more than the person that bought Manhattan before you, but it's always a good investment to invest in the economic capital of the free world.
Do you think that Trump is serious about creating this Bitcoin reserve, and how would that work?
I think he is. And, if you think about the Louisiana Purchase, California, and Alaska, we paid $40 million to buy 75% of the United States. Nobody remembers the $40 million. But if you know where the money's going, you should buy the property, buy the future. And in this case, the Lummis plan calls for 1 million Bitcoin acquisition. That's worth $16 trillion to the country. RFK proposed 4 million Bitcoin that would be worth about $56 trillion. There's room for Trump to go beyond that, even $81 trillion in gains. And that's against $36 trillion in the U.S. national debt. So all the capital outside the U.S. and all of the antiquated 20th century capital is going to flow into digital assets. It's going to flow into the Bitcoin network. And the logical thing is for the U.S. to buy it now and own the future.
And just chase it up at any price?
I think just a progressive acquisition of it makes sense. Keep in mind, if you bought Manhattan from 1650 to 1700 a little bit every single year, it would have been a good acquisition. Right now, we can buy, the United States could literally buy 25% of the Bitcoin network, either by trading out its existing gold stores or just by borrowing a small trace amount of money. And so the Bitcoin network could go up by a factor of 100. You might as well buy it before it 100x's.
Your Manhattan analog is really interesting, Michael, because the reason it would have made sense to buy Manhattan is because they agreed it's going to be on a grid going north. And I wonder if you see similar policy analogs right now in crypto. Are we that organized?
You know, the world wants a digital assets framework, and the United States has a great opportunity to define a digital assets framework. We need to define the definitions of a digital commodity, a currency, a security, a token, an NFT, and an asset-backed token. And we need the rights and responsibilities of issuers and the exchanges and the owners. But that takes consensus from the executive branch, the House, the Senate, and the industry. And we didn't have that for the past 4 years. The opportunity for the U.S., it's to issue $10 trillion of digital currency and back the dollar. It's to capture $50 trillion of capital gain on the digital capital network. And I do believe with the digital assets framework that this administration could put forward, there's no reason why we won't see $500 trillion of assets tokenized over the next 21 years and 280 trillion in capital flow into the digital capital network that is Bitcoin.
And where does that lead Bitcoin's eventual price?
My 21-year forecast is for Bitcoin to appreciate about 29% a year, ARR, to $13 million a coin by the year 2045.